We have heard today that the United Nations Police needs new capacities to meet the demands of the 21st century. This session will illustrate ongoing activities of the United Nations in this area. We will talk about getting people with the right skill sets, diversifying our workforce linguistically and in gender terms, deploying in teams, and fighting sexual and gender-based violence. Our session features interesting presentations, so I expect many questions, and to be able to do that, I will ask my presenters to be as brief as possible and stick to the 15 minutes time limit. And the first speaker will also head towards the airport after she has spoken, so we should get started. And our first speaker today is Dr. Nyagale Bagayoko. She is the program manager for the Peacekeeping and Peacebuilding program of Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie, OIF. Before joining the OIF, she was a senior research fellow of the governance team at the Institute of Development Studies, University of Sussex, UK, and a lecturer at the Institute of Political Studies in Paris. She has conducted extensive field research and security sector reform in several Francophone African countries and studied the interface between security and development. Please, Dr. Bagayoko, vous avez la parole.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me first thank the Police Division of the ORC DPKO, as well as the German Ministry for Foreign Affairs, for inviting the OIF to make a presentation to the high-level conference. We are both honored and grateful. We are also more than happy to see that the United Nations are seriously taking into account one of the OIF most important matter of concern, which is the lack of Francophone capability in contribution to peacekeeping, particularly on the African continent. So, if you don't mind, I will address this topic in French, and let me also apologize for not being able to stay to answer your question, because I unfortunately have to leave just after my presentation. Je voudrais donc ici faire un état des lieux.
I would like to present the contribution of the Francophone countries with regard to peace missions, so very much in general. And then briefly, I would like to illustrate how the International Organization of the Francophone countries tries to develop the necessary qualifications and skills for these peacekeeping missions. So what is the setup of our organizations regarding the contribution of the French-speaking countries to peacekeeping? This is a question that we have had to deal with for a couple of years now. We have to see that there are two aspects to that. First of all, we have to take into consideration that there is a considerable increase in the number of missions in French-speaking countries. We have noted that since 2004 there has been an increase of these missions by the fact that 3 new missions have been decided by the United Nations. And they regarded French-speaking countries, Côte d'Ivoire, Haiti, and Burundi. And these 3 missions were added to MONUC that already existed in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And this was also very much extended and enlarged. So ever since 2009, we have been in a situation where more than half of the United Nations forces have been deployed in French-speaking countries. So in 2012, at the beginning of 2012, we had 55,000 officers were deployed in French-speaking countries. This meant that more than 55% of the blue helmets were deployed in French-speaking countries. So you can see this problem regards to a large extent the French-speaking countries. And the second problem, or the second aspect, regards the number of forces or officers deployed to peace missions, regarding of whether these missions actually take place in English-speaking or French-speaking countries. Well, we now have to fear that if these are missions that take place in French-speaking countries, that we have a shortage of staff, of officers, and this again leads to specific problems. One of the specific problems is that we have, communication problems, so language problems, the language barrier. It is difficult to communicate with the people on the ground and to create a relationship of trust with the local population. And this again is an important aspect for police operations in those countries. It is very rarely the case that the officers, the police officers in non-French-speaking countries speak French. So, even police officers in French-speaking countries, the United Nations police officers in French-speaking countries often don't speak French, and this leads to communication problems. Ever since 2008, we've seen some improvements. We have noted since then that more and more French-speaking countries contribute police officers, and this improves the situation. Well, what are the obstacles? What are the impediments for the French-speaking countries to second staff? Well, basically, there are two major problems. On the one hand side, we can see that certain governments are not really willing. They lack the necessary political will. Often they do not see the advantages of the seconding staff, of contributing to such peace missions. If there's contingency under equipment, then one can note that or see that many countries do not want to second their officers, the police officers, because they do not know what the reimbursement for that would look like. Sometimes there's a lack of political will, but in addition to that, there are also certain technical and operational shortcomings, and these shortcomings result from the fact that certain French-speaking countries do not really meet the criteria of the United Nations, so they have difficulties in finding adequate police officers that they could second. We get the impression that many French-speaking countries do not meet the requirements in terms of training, in terms of technologies, in terms of command structures. This also regards basic equipment, for example. And sometimes it can be the case that the different procedures, also the application procedures, well, they're not familiar with the necessary application procedures. When it comes to the police officers, we also see that many people in the administrations or governments of the French-speaking countries have problems in getting getting integrated again after they come back from a mission. So there are certain integration problems. Their career structures do not lend themselves for police officers from those countries being seconded to international peace missions. So we need these problems need to be solved. So what we call for is that this situation may be improved or remedied. We want to raise the awareness of the United Nations. We want to make it easier for people, or make it prompt more people to learn French. And since 2004, an important date, as I said, ever since 2004, the Secretary General, at that time it was Kofi Annan, that the Secretary General turned to the Secretary General of the Organization of French-Speaking Countries and said that it was necessary to convince the governments of the French-speaking countries that it was necessary for them to second police officers, in particular for Haiti. Since then, our Organization of French-speaking countries has dealt with this issue, and I said that we tried to call upon the United Nations to adopt the necessary measures, or certain specific measures. First of all, the principle of equality of languages needs to be taken into account. So English and French have to be two languages that have to be put on the same level. But so far there have been certain differences or disadvantages or greater difficulties when it came to access to certain documents and so on. So sometimes it was more difficult for people from French-speaking countries to actually be able to access the documents for applying, for contributing to UN missions. And then it is often not really made mandatory for staff seconded to French-speaking countries that they actually speak French. But I think it would be quite legitimate to ask of people who are seconded to French-speaking countries that they at least have some knowledge of French, are able to communicate freely in French, and in addition they also have to be in a position to speak English, so they have to know English as a working language and be proficient in English in order to be able to communicate with the United Nations Command. So they do not only have to know French when they want to work in the French-speaking countries, they also have to know English. But in any case, they should at any rate, know French as well. So this is the work that we did. We spoke out in favor of French. We've now seen some success, and all the documents that are being published also need to be published in French. And we've noted with great pleasure that since then we've had some progress. There are more documents available in French now. So this was the point, or the point that the objective of this action, of this measure. And we also try to establish a kind of network of French-speaking police officers. We have given us this task, and Francopol is the name of the network, and we supported this network. This network was established in 2008. It was one of the institutional networks of the French-speaking countries. There are also certain training centers or training bodies linked to this network, or they are part of this network, and they work on improving the training for French-speaking police officers so that they are able to meet the necessary requirements. We also support regional training centers for the police officers. We've also worked with CFFE, with the Integrated Service Center. And in general, we work together with the training centers of the French-speaking countries. Until then, they were not really well known. They were not really taken into account, but there are about 10 of them all over the world, and the majority of these training centers is specialized and deals with police training. Centre de Perfection de la Police Judiciaire, that is for the criminal police in Benin, and there's also another organization in Senegal, a training center for public order forces. Also in Cameroon, there's another center, a center of excellence for the police forces, which is it's going to be called E-Force. Another center is going to be based in Cameroon. Then there's also a training center a training academy for the gendarmerie. So the officers, the high-ranking police officers are to be trained here. All these organizations that are part of Franco-Pol, of this network, have training centers. In France, it's Saint-Astier, for example. These are training academies that could be better used, that could be better exploited in order to train more French-speaking staff. We also support all measures targeted to online training and further training. Here again, we have created a specific module for public order during election campaigns or in pre-election periods. So a specific measure or curriculum was developed for that. And another center, EFORB, another center for in which the training of police officers will play an enormous role. And other approaches are also pursued by us. They are about making sure that the French-speaking police officers are in a better position to meet the requirements of the United States. Here, another initiative has been launched. The police department has asked us to help the police officers to improve their applications so that it is easier for them to apply for police missions. This is about being better able to fill in the appropriate application form, which is an English form, and we also support all efforts for the police reform. We feel or have the feeling that it is very important, as our colleague pointed out beforehand, our colleague from Nigeria, what he pointed out, that it is very important to have a look at the environment in which we are acting, because people always work in a specific historic context. They're confronted with specific procedures, and you always have to see the environment in which the reform takes place. And the personnel that is seconded actually knows the organization, is acquainted with the law system there. I just want to give you two examples for the French-speaking countries. Well, first of all, the gendarmerie that exists in these countries. It is a special feature of the French-speaking countries, and maybe something that you're not so familiar with in other countries. Or maybe one of the last examples, the idea of this community policing. That is, it is very difficult to implement that in a French-speaking country. We speak of neighborhood police, police de proximité, and here again the police officers need specific competences and skills in order to accompany such a reform where they are confronted with different procedures. Well, maybe I spoke a little too much at length, but thank you for your attention.
Merci pour votre contribution et bon voyage.
Thank you for your contribution and have a safe journey.
The next speaker will speak under a very interesting title, A Danger Zone for Female Police Officers. Before I hand over the floor, I want to take this opportunity to say a few words of the global effort that has been mentioned a couple of times. It was launched in 2009 in August, and it was under the lead of Andrew Hughes, when he was the police advisor at that time. We set a target of having at least 20% by 2014. When this was launched, the figures were around 7%, and today, as we heard, 9.9. We have been slightly around 10, there have been 10.1 and 10.2, but unfortunately we are below 10 now, and so we have to speed up. My experience is that when we launched this, it was a great interest and engagement and commitment from all member states, and we were able to raise the numbers. Now it's a little bit of a status quo. We need to do something more. So I'm very happy to receive any ideas that you have to get us up to the number that we have set as a target. And also to underline this 20% by 2014 has also been endorsed by Secretary General, so it is a UN goal to reach. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Commissioner Alita Mbave. Commissioner Mbave is the Commissioner of the Drug Enforcement Commission in her country and the first woman to occupy this important position. Commissioner Mbave served the United Nations in the field as Chief of Staff of the UN Police Component in Sudan and will help us dispel stereotypes about UN peacekeeping missions being too dangerous for female police officers to serve in. Please, Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, delegates, may I simply say, ladies and gentlemen, before I go into my presentation, I would like to join hands with the previous speakers who congratulated the government of Germany and indeed the United Nations for putting up this very important conference. I'm pretty sure that by the time we leave this conference tomorrow, we'll all have learned one or two things that we need to bring back home with us and put into implementation. My presentation is on international police peacekeeping, a danger zone for female police officers. And I ask myself, is this a myth or a reality? I would like us to look into the definition of gender. Many a times when people have been asked, what is gender? I've had a response to say, now we are going to talk about women and their human rights. But that is not the definition of gender. Gender refers to social attributes and opportunities associated with being male and female. These attributes, opportunities, and relationships are socially constructed and learned through socialization. They are context, time-specific, and changeable. I like the fact that they are changeable. They are not fixed. Gender defines power relations in society and determines what is expected, allowed, and valued in a woman or a man in a given context. Gender balance in peace support operations. We've looked at statistics since morning, and Anne-Mariola Oda just informed us a few minutes ago of the intention of the United Nations to increase the numbers from the 9-point-something% of women in peace support operations to 20%. I believe this is a realistic approach to this arrangement, because as much as we would want to achieve 50-50%, it is not possible for us to achieve this 50-50, but we have to do it gradually, considering the fact that even in our own countries where we come from, we do not have the numbers of women that we would like to send in the peacekeeping operations. But it is important to note that gender balance is the equal representation of women and men throughout all levels and positions in an organization and institute. So it is the hope of the United Nations that we can have a lot of women, just as we have a lot of men, in in decision-making positions, and not just at the lower levels of the United Nations operations. We've seen these statistics before, but I did an extraction of information that is relevant to the police officers that are deployed in the missions, representing individual police officers as well as formed police units. I guess the statistics that I have now have been overtaken by events, as I was looking at statistics that were on the DPKO site from July 2012, which showed that the current deployments then were 9% females and 91% of males. And for sure, this is serious gender imbalance, like Mr. Carpenter pointed out in his presentation. And we all have a serious responsibility to ensure that these numbers are up to at least very good levels of 20%, like has been proposed by the United Nations. Why gender issues in peace support operations? We need to consider these gender issues because there is need to respond appropriately to the different ways that women, men, girls, and boys are affected by armed conflicts and its aftermath. This is also important because we need to consider the particular needs and interests of women and girls when designing and implementing peace support operations. Women's participation at peace tables is not being felt. Women are largely absent in the formal peace process due to social, cultural norms which pose challenges to women's meaningful participation. Women are mainly involved when it is time to carry placards. They'll go on, scream, chant, and so on. Nobody will remind them that your place is in the kitchen. Move out from the streets. Do not participate in this. But because when women participate in these marches and advocacies, usually there is something that is achieved. But we should not leave women only to participate in these marches. We should also bring them forward, sit with them when we are now planning the way forward to whatever issues need to be tabled. This is an extract from a report on women, war, and peace. And it states that the extreme violence that women suffer during conflict does not arise solely out of the conditions of war, but it is directly related to the violence that exists in women's life during peacetime as well. Throughout the world, women experience violence simply because they are women. I want to believe most of us, the countries that we are coming from, the countries we are representing, have special units that have been put in place to try and address issues of sexual, gender-based violence affecting our women and children. Some of us call these departments family units. Some of us call them victim support unit. You name it. I'm sure you know which names you call these departments in your country. And most of us are coming from countries that are not at war, but we are experiencing these issues. But what more in a situation where we are faced with war situations? Women have been abused, used as tools of war crime. They have been abducted from their camps, from their communities, and abused by the rebels in the bush. All sorts of things have been done to them. So if it is important for us to have these units operational during time of peace, what more during time of war? Now, it has been mentioned that we are faced with challenges when it comes to recruiting women in peace support operations. Women need to be prepared psychologically on their need to participate in peace support operations. If you are a trainer in peace support operations, there is one movie that is usually shown. It is called The Peacekeeper. This film shows the realities that are faced out there when you're in a mission. Definitely, it's not child's play. It's not time for holiday when you are deployed or you are told you're going to be deployed in a particular mission. It is important to make us women understand the realities that we are going to find out there so that we prepare psychologically, and when we are out there in the missions, we will fit in perfectly and perform just as well as our male counterparts. I have also seen situations where when we have actually been told the truth of the realities on the ground, some women have ended up saying, I don't think I'm going to risk my family life or my life going to a mission to go and be exposed to such a situation. But I want to remind us that I believe that policing at international level is just the same as policing back home in our countries. Even when we are policing back home in our countries, we are faced with difficult challenges out there in the field. There are times when we have to, endure situations where we are at gunfire with the criminals. And in the process, even at local level, we have lost some officers in line of duty. So it doesn't mean that when you're going to go to peacekeeping operations, it is a death sentence for you. No, it is not a death sentence for any woman. It is not a death sentence for a man. But of course, we need to accept and understand the fact that there could be possibilities of one losing life out there, just like there are possibilities of one losing life when they're back in their countries. One of the other challenges that we are faced with in terms of having women participate in these peace support operations is that some families are not comfortable allowing women to leave their husbands and children for a long time. Again, it goes back to what society prescribes is the role of a woman in society. And because some family members will not support this, some women feel it is better to go by what society is dictating. Sometimes women do not reach the eligibility requirements to join these peace support operations. I link this point to the next point, which talks about low ranks and lack of skills to take up positions of authority. Most of our women in our countries, they are holding very low positions. And when we take them to missions, it will be asking for too much from them to expect them to take up positions of responsibility when all they do back home is do the low-level work in terms of policing. So it is my appeal to all of us who are seated here. Most of us here are decision makers back home. When we get back home, we need to look at how we can improve our women's participation in these peace support operations. What kind of training do they need for them to have the courage to attain the higher levels that are required of them to take up positions in the peace support operations? In some situations, I've come across situations where some men who have been in peace support operations and are married to fellow police officers will not want to allow their wives to go for peace support operations. And when I've asked the question, why wouldn't you want to allow your wife to go for a peace support operation? And they have told me a lot goes on there. A lot goes on in these peace support operations. Now, probably I have confronted some of them and I have told them, is it because of what you were doing when you went to a peace support operation that you would not want another person to do to your wife when she goes to a peace support operation? So men, help these women make their own decisions. If it was okay for you to go to a peace support operation and you made your own decisions when you were in a peace support operation, do not think that your wives or your girlfriends will go to a peace support operation and do exactly what you did when you were there. These people are required there to go and work, just like you were required to go into the field to go and work. So let the women make their own decisions in terms of whether they want to participate in these peace support operations or not to participate. As I stated earlier, heads of police services or forces need to put up special training programs to prepare women to participate in decision-making position, or indeed any other positions that they'll be required to take up when they go to the missions. It has been emphasized here, going to peace support operations is not about numbers, it's about having the relevant skills. So let us help these women acquire the relevant skills that they need out there. Contributing countries also need to sensitize staff on issues of gender and gender mainstreaming. Then would not even be discussing issues of why should a woman go to a peacekeeping operation if we understand this before, if we understand these issues before we are even deployed to any peace support operation. My conclusion, gender should never be used as an excuse for one not to participate fully in peacekeeping operations. As law enforcement officers, let us all work together to eradicate the phrase male-dominated. We should refrain from using this word. For a long time, we've been hearing people saying, policing is a man's field. Policing is a man's field. Let us do away with such phrases and embrace the women also and understand that they can perform just as well as men in this particular field. Who knew we would have engineers? Who knew we would have female pilots? Those were jobs that were reserved for men in the past. So even policing, as much as we were thinking policing was for men in the past, now it is a field for men and women. So let us eradicate the term male-dominated. Therefore, I want to state that international police peacekeeping is not a danger zone for women. It is a safe place for women to operate from, just like it is a safe place for men to operate from. Thank you, Danke schön.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And I could not but agree on the film, The Peacekeeper. If you haven't seen it, you should have a look. And Assistant Secretary General Mr. Titov has a leading role, so you might want to ask for his autograph later on. Our next speaker is Ms. Samra Filipovic Hadjiabdish. She has been long at the forefront of women's rights and gender issues in her country. Currently director of the Gender Equality Agency of Bosnia and Herzegovina, she also established and directed the Gender Center of the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina. In that role, she developed strategies to mainstream gender issues, designed the center's programs, drafted and lobbied for the equality law that has since established the State Agency for Equality and coordinated the drafting process for Bosnia and Herzegovina's National Action Plan under the Beijing Declaration. Ms. Filipovic, you have the floor. And a very difficult name.
Thank you. I want to join to my previous speakers to thanks to German government, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and especially for, to person who is guilty for today's conference, Polizeidirektor Feller. I have just to find out, okay, my presentation. Sorry. In order to be fast and brief, I will stick to my presentation because I'm lawyer by training and we can really talk a lot. So let me just stick to a presentation. And before I start, I would like to greet all persons here, and there are such a number, who were in the peace mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I'm really pleased I met already a few of you here. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a country with history of conflict, as you know. And today, Bosnia and Herzegovina is still hosting international police forces, but also participate in international police missions. This factor has an influence on policing in Bosnia and Herzegovina and the role of female police officers. Today we had the general overview of the problems and issues related to the police and police mission. Now I will try to give inside view from the point of the Bosnia and Herzegovina. And women in police forces are underrepresented, and the participation of women in Bosnia and Herzegovina remains at 6.3%. When assessing the participation of women in police, one also needs to take into account that the recruitment of women has been actively promoted only since the mid-90s. And the main factor were identified which hinder a greater participation, persisting stereotypes, gender-neutral approach to employment of police officers, and indirect discrimination in access to advancement to high ranks. What are the main reasons why we have to include women? Police officers often do not recognize that there are different security needs for women and men. Men face violence which occurs more often in the public sphere, and women face violence which occur more often in the private sphere. But I saw that more and more police are introducing this problem, so I'm really glad. So I have to change this slide. What we do in Bosnia and Herzegovina actually to go over the problems. I have to say you that we are first country in the region to come up with the action plan on implementation UN Resolution 1325. And in order to remedy this situation, it was adopted in 2010. We have 9 goals set up in our action plan, and you can see it starts from raising the women on decision-making places, then to increase the women in the security sector, in police and defense, and also we have activities related to anti-trafficking, and also as the country which go over the war and have the problem with the mining, we have activities set forth in action plan related to the mining, as well as the support, which is very important and very specific to our country. It's support to women which were, and girls which were the civil war victims. Of course, we have a goal which cover activities related with cooperation with NGOs, our NGOs and international. But in our action plan on 1325 resolution, Women, Peace and Security, the second goal of action plan focus on recruitment, harmonization of the laws and bylaws with the gender equality principles, prohibition of discrimination, sexual and gender-based harassment, introduction of positive measures, nomination of gender focal points, networking of women in police forces, promotion of police forces as an employment opportunity both for women and men. So, second goal is reserved for police officers. Related to recruitment, since the police academy in Sarajevo began training police cadets in '98, 1,836 cadets have been trained, out of which 494 were women, which is 27%. And in Banja Luka, Police Academy trained total 943 cadets, out of which 213 were women, which is 23%. Both academies aim to include more women as cadets in the training and education process. Agency for the Gender Equality of Bosnia and Herzegovina has developed the training manuals on gender equality and in particular on prevention and combining all forms of gender-based violence. This manual has become an integral part of curricula for new generation. This is the spots from promotion, the police job. And related to activities from the action plan which cover harmonization of the laws and bylaws, which we consider as important part, are related to elimination of different forms of indirect discrimination, access to high ranks, physical testing, parental leave, and harmonization of working and family life, as well as introduction of protection mechanisms against harassment and sexual harassment, civil procedures, disciplinary procedures, mediation, etc., as well as introduction of positive measures, which we consider as very important related to recruitment of women in police. Introduction of positive measures, general criteria for police missions now included that the member in this mission should include members of both women and men. Selection criteria, the number of years of experience for police mission for women is lowered to 5 years, where men still need to meet the 8-year experience criteria. Access to additional lessons in English language and other training opportunity available only for women to prepare them to police missions. The general gender awareness training mandatory for all members of police missions that were related to the introducing the positive measures to increase the number of women. And I would like also to introduce you with the networking of women in police forces. In 2009, the Southeast European Police Chiefs Association, SEPCA, initiated the establishment of the Regional Women Police Officers Network. Women in police forces in Bosnia and Herzegovina were the first to organize networks in police forces. These networks aims to promote the role of women in police forces, to establish strategic approach to recruitment and training, to advocate for advancement women in police forces, and to promote results of women in police forces. Today, these networks are key partners in the implementation of UN Resolution 1325, Women, Peace and Security in Police Forces. Related to the number of women in police mission, I want to introduce you that Bosnia and Herzegovina has deployed 49 members in peace operation, out of which are 14.29% are women. In Liberia, out of 12 police officers, 2 are women. South Sudan, 28 police officers, 4 of them are women. And Cyprus, 9 police officers, 1 was woman. Compared to the recent years, these numbers show a steady increase of women, including an increase in higher-ranking position. What is the impact of women in police mission? It was mentioned several times. Different approach of women police officers, new approach to peace promotion and confidence building, easier access to the local population, especially women, children, and elderly, easier access to the women and girls victims of sexual and physical violence, and high professionalism. Women have proven to yield excellent results in police mission. Main conclusions are that there is need for coordinating approach to increase the number of women in police forces, adoption of strategies, action plans, affirmative measures. It's need for combining the combined stereotypes to increase women in police forces, and it needs to continue support to women in police forces related to the networking, training, opportunities, and that's right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Superintendent Shubhra Tiwari from the Indian Police. Ms. Tiwari has served the UN in the field and has been a regular contributor to the police division's activities, working on the gender toolkit and the curriculum for preventing and investigation of sexual and gender-based violence, and training police officers throughout the globe. In 2010, Ms. Tiwari shared the podium with the UN Secretary General on the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the UN Security Council's landmark Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security. Ms. Tiwari will speak about the contribution UN police officers can make to combat the scores of SGBV. Please, Ms. Tiwari, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry for the delay. Thank you. As my previous speakers have emphasized that women add value to missions, their presence at least leads to building up of trust and cooperation. Before I embark on role of UN police officers in combating SGBV, I would like to share with you a journey of contribution of women police officers in United Nations mission in Sudan. As our first speaker in the panel pointed out, that it's not easy that anyone can come to mission and contribute to community policing. We sometimes think that we can go and contribute in community policing just by conversing with local police. It's not like that, especially in Sudan, where their culture does not permit women to mix with officers of opposite sex or gender with men. Women can really play a very good role, as you can see in these pictures. Women police officers contributed in many ways, not only by building trust and cooperation through women in community policing camps in IDP, that is internally displaced persons camps. I would like to share with you that UN police officers, they don't directly approach community in missions. They are only supposed to do that through local police. And in this way, they help in making bonds with community through local police. As you can see, we not only trained them on different issues, but we also imparted vocational training skills to the local women so that they can be independent financially. We also helped them in marketing their products by organizing exhibitions for them. Presence of women in UN mission enhances their access to vulnerable populations. Women can more easily access to children, women, and vulnerable persons. And it is also important to respect local traditions. It is very, very important that when we are approaching local police, we have utmost respect for their local traditions, local environment, and we approach them with utter humility. We organized gender and child protection courses for women. We set up special protection units in South Sudan to deal with crime related to women and children. We also organized counseling courses for victims of sexual and gender-based violence and domestic violence. These courses were organized for local women police officers so that they can counsel victims in IDP camps. And it's not that women's maternal instincts were utilized only in soft policing activities. Women participated in core police activities like we trained them on passport control, airport security, how to detect forged documents, close protection or VIP security, traffic management, medical first responders, and advanced forensic scientific investigation, cyber crimes. When we talk of, as Commissioner Anne-Marie Oller pointed out, that I was a speaker on the 10th anniversary of UN Resolution 1325. We kept on emphasizing on role of women on community policing, how women can easily reach out to vulnerable persons, women and children, and thus make bonds. Somebody pointed out, because we were just emphasizing on soft policing activities, somebody pointed out, don't you do core policing activities? Are women only showcasing soft activities or where they are strong on their maternal instincts? That's not true. Women police officers were training local women police officers in almost every field of policing activities that can be imagined. And also, when people see a women police officer performing functions, they get encouraged. Not only women get encouraged to do those things, but even the men think that if this woman can do this, it means everybody can do that. So in post-conflict situations, presence of women officers not only enhances trust and cooperation, but it also gives motivation for everyone, including women and children, to do better in almost every field. Now I would like to talk about UN Police SGBV, that is Sexual Gender-Based Violence Training Initiatives. As my previous speakers have profusely thanked Federal Government of Germany for organizing this high-level conference, I would like to tell you that this SGBV training was also funded by Federal Government of Germany, and we are thankful to them for this. This was a training designed to provide standard training or knowledge for investigation and prevention of sexual and gender-based violence. We designed this training to give frontline operational officers to confidently investigate or attain knowledge to a required level and to pass such knowledge and skills to host state police. Where does it happen? It should happen in every mission. After 12 years of policing experience, when I went to Sudan, I thought I was capable of doing everything. But as one of my colleagues pointed out in forenoon session, that when you are in a mission, You're not working with the same team of police officers who are trained on similar lines, who know what is the penal code or what are the criminal procedures are. It gets very difficult to work in such an environment. And as he rightly pointed out, if I have worked in one mission, not necessary that I would be able to deliver in another mission, because local environment, historical context, and everything differs from place to place. And that is why when I was given an opportunity to contribute to this training, I was very happy, because there were initial hiccups, which all of us, when we go to mission, we face those hiccups. And this training curriculum was designed to overcome those hiccups. Development of this training curriculum, it started in 2010. 36 UN police, host state, and police contributing country experts contributed to development of this curriculum. 2 development workshops were held, and later on, this curriculum was revised by 5 expert reviewers. We had 5 regional train-the-trainer courses for Asia-Pacific region in Philippines, 2 in Africa, one for English-speaking countries and another one for French-speaking countries, 1 in Uruguay for America regions, and 1 in Europe for European regions. 103 police trainers were certified, and 62 countries participated in these courses. 6th course which was held in Uganda. I haven't specified it here, but when I was going through the magazine, I came to know that a 6th pilot course was also held in Uganda. Training to mission context. Training is important to provide skills for an initial start, but as there cannot be one pill for every solution, similarly, this curriculum cannot be panacea to every mission. This gives you a basic structure, and once you are in different missions, it is very important to improvise it within the local context, that is the country of mission. But the main point is that underlying values of this course, it should be within the underlying values of United Nations, that is human rights, international women's rights, children's rights, all should be respected within that context. Factors for consideration of this training was within mission or post-conflict environment. UNPOLs come from different training experience background. Resources in country are very poor, so this course is designed in such a way that even when you don't have any computer or internet accessibility, it can be done with local resources. Host country police is often inexperienced, and as Andrew pointed out, the difference between host country police and the facilities UN police officers get, it becomes mandatory for all of us that we respect that and improvise our training as per host country police experience. There are communication issues. I will elaborate on it. Approach was that this curriculum should be developed in such a way that it is easily read and understood by everyone. It has a practical application. It is just not theory. And the why is understood. Why this training is being imparted, that is clear. It is not resource dependent. It can be expanded upon. That is, it grows within the mission. And to evaluate, when we imparted this training, to evaluate whether we were able to achieve our goal, we had scenarios at the end of the training. These scenarios dealt with different problems which one encounters in an imaginary mission environment. And the whole group of participants were divided into different groups, and they were given different problems, and we were happy to see that trainees came up with solutions which were within the training package delivered to them. And it was followed by a 3-day evaluation seminar where participants from every regional training course were called upon to contribute to the growth of curriculum. this is a small overview of the training that we imparted. Principles were sexual and gender-based violence dynamics, legal framework within which this training should operate, victim trauma. The skills that were taken into account were investigating, interviewing, crime scene investigation, case management, problem solving, advising, and mentoring. We introduced 3 mini modules to this training, that is female genital mutilation, human trafficking, mass rape, genocide, and domestic violence, to create knowledge awareness about these issues. When we are in, this is how this training is supposed to work. Initially, we train Unpol coming into the mission about this training. He is supposed to mentor the trainer because most of the missions are mandated to reform, restructure, and rebuild local police. And this training should be within the framework of reference of local training conditions. We have Unpol giving training to host state police, and it is done through language assistants and with partners, different NGOs, UNICEF, UNDP, community, etc. It is very difficult to impart training. I may be best trainer in my own country because I am communicating with persons who have been trained just like me, who know my language, who know my language, my body language, everything. But when you are in another country and you are imparting training through a language assistant, it is really very difficult. I'll just give you one example. When we were training Sudanese police on gender issues, one of my topic was about child sexual abuse. Once my lecture finished, my participants told me that you were one of the best lectures we have heard. We have heard about many experts talking about this subject, but we liked you best. Initially, I was euphoric, but later on, after 5 minutes, I realized maybe it were not my skills, but my language assistant skills, which improved with every trainer, which got me this result. So it's sometimes I may be best trainer back home, but it also depends on my language assistant who is able to interpret what I am going to say. And maybe he or she picks up the skills, not only from me, but from the previous speakers on the same subject. The ultimate aim of this training is to protect, prevent, and account for victims of sexual and gender-based violence. This is just a bird's eye view of our training, which has different modules like SGBV dynamics, trauma, mentoring, advising, training, problem solving, case management, etc., etc. It just, the whole training, first it gives you the text, how to go about this training. Then we have included PowerPoint presentations in it and some movies to make our point clear. These PowerPoint presentations are adaptive. UN system has one advantage, which can be a disadvantage also. It gives you enough freedom to keep reinventing the wheel. When we are in a mission, because we are cops, so as soon as we see the problem, we just jump in and react, just like back home. But in the mission, where we don't have the knowledge about as I will tell you, in my pre-deployment training, I just came to know about culture of Sudan, how I'm supposed to behave there, what are the topics forbidden, what are the areas forbidden. But nobody prepared us how, when we reach the mission, how we are going to face different police trainings. I may be an expert on investigation of murder, but if I'm told there to investigate sexual and gender-based violence, how I'm going to do it? So we have devised this training with an eye to address the problem of having police officers with not sufficient experience. It has, some of the modules have movies, small movies, which make their points very clear within short span. As you can see, total number of 103 police officers were trained. 50 were male and 53 were female police officers. And in May 2012, an evaluation survey was carried out. These sheets were sent to every officer who was trained during regional training courses, and it was found that they have further trained 6,064 police officers in different countries, out of which 4,109 are men and 193 are women. So to make it women-dominated, as Commissioner Alita pointed out, we need to balance this. Impact is, UNMIS had already adapted the curriculum for SSPS and trained 21 officers. You have seen that total number of 6,064 officers trained. UNMIS Commissioner has called for standardization of this course and course in every mission. These trainings were given wide media coverage in every host country where we did these courses, which raised awareness not only on this issue, but on this issue locally, but also about United Nations generally. So this is all about. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we are, again, running a little bit late. We have two presentations left, and I was hoping to have space for one another question, but let's see how we do about that. Now we will shift to another focus for a moment, from gender to organized crime. And that is another area where women are not so well represented, but I do not think we should try to be balanced in representation when it comes to organized crime. Our next presentation is about ways in which international police peacekeepers can counter the threat of transnational organized crime. In the Asia-Pacific region, following the establishment of the transnational crime units in each country, the Pacific Transnational Crime Coordination Center, PTCCC, network was established in Fiji in May 2004. The PTCCC provides a gateway into the network for police and other law enforcement agencies by acting as a regional one-stop shop for all police and other law enforcement-related inquiries. The PTCCC coordinates the flow of information between the TCU, the Transnational Crime Units, and foreign police and other law enforcement agencies. Its major functions are to coordinate the collection, and dissemination of intelligence throughout the Pacific region. It is my pleasure to give the floor to Deputy Commissioner Isekele Sauliga and Assistant Commissioner Isekele Vonivaka of the Fijian Island Police to present to us the work of the Pacific Transnational Crime Coordination Center. The floor is yours.
Your Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I will be presenting to you the Pacific Transnational Crime Coordination Center, as has been highlighted by the moderator. This is a model that has been used in the Pacific region, and it's a concept that is in light of the session theme, International Police Peacekeeping, New Capacity Need, and the Skill Set of Workforce Diversity, Model of Deployment and Fighting Sexual and Gender-Based Violence. The purpose of this presentation is to actually present the model and the concept as an option in meeting new capacity needs for international police peacekeeping deployment. The PTCCC model is a new one developed for a region that at times faces instability and used by organized crime syndicates, given its porous borders. The scope of the presentation, actually the PTCCC is the core of something which was developed first, and that is what we call the Pacific Transnational Crime Network. So the first part of the presentation will be on the history of the PTCCC and how it was formed. As I speak, this is for contextualization purpose. The presentation would be referring to this region. And you see Australia and New Zealand on the west. To the east, it goes right up to Hawaii. So this is the region that I'm going to speak about. I shall now move on to the PTCN, or the Pacific Transnational Crime Network, and its establishment. In the meeting of the Chief of Police in 2002, they resolved and agreed to establish a network for transnational crime in response to increasing presence of transnational organized crime highlighted by seizure of illicit drugs and human smuggling for the purpose of prostitution. And that led to sexual and gender-based violence throughout the Pacific region. The idea was to provide proactive transnational crime intelligence and investigative capabilities to Pacific regional law enforcement agencies and to develop a multi-agency law enforcement approach which enhances capacity of Pacific Island nations to combat transnational crime. This resolution was endorsed by the leaders in their meeting in the same year. The setting up of the PTCN was co-funded by the Australian Federal Police, the New Zealand Police, and the Joint Interagency Task Force. This is an organization which is based in Hawaii, made up of the FBI and the Coast Guard. This is the structure of the PTCN, the Pacific Transnational Crime Network. It has a board of management, which sits at the top, and you have the transnational crime units. These transnational crime units, they feed the PTCCC. Sorry, we have the BOM, board of management, we have the PTCCC, and we have the TCUs. And also we have other law enforcement agencies. It is structured in such a way that information flow is not hindered. For your information, the region that I'm talking about comprises of almost more than 27 countries. And out of these, there are only 13 countries that have transnational crime units in them. So a lot of them are without the transnational crime unit. The role of the PTCCC, the role of the BOM, the Board of Management, the Board of Management is made up of a chair and 4 members. All these are commissioners. They are commissioners from different countries. At the moment, the chair of the BOM is the commissioner from the Cook Islands, and there are 4 members, including the commissioner of the Australian Federal Police, the commissioner from Tonga, who represents the Polynesian groups of islands, the commissioner from the Marshall Islands, who represent the Micronesians, and the commissioner from Vanuatu, who represent the Melanesian groups of islands. The role of the BOM, the role and functions of the BOM are to maintain the credibility and reputation of the Pacific Transnational Crime Network It also ensures the ongoing viability and sustainability of the of the Pacific Transnational Crime Coordination Center. It also, through the chair, resolves any dispute within the PCCC, whether they are operational, administrative, or personnel. It also provides an oversight governance arrangements for PTCN and PTCCC. It also provides annual reports to all the Pacific Island Chief of Police members, clients, and stakeholders. And it makes decisions based on recommendations determined from intelligence product and reporting. This is the PTCN, the Pacific Transnational Crime Network. As you can see, we have the center in one of the islands, and we have the transnational crime units in the centers in other islands. The PTCCC is basically in Samoa, up here in Samoa, and that is where the information center is. So now I'm going to move on to the PTCCC, which is a core of the Pacific Transnational Crime Network. The PTCCC was established in 2004, as has been mentioned by the moderator. It was relocated to Samoa in 2008 to ensure efficiency and effectiveness. Like the PTCN, the PTCCC is co-funded by the Australian Federal Police, the New Zealand Police, and the Joint Interagency Task Force. The PTCCC is operated by staff from individual country TCUs. So the appointments of staff are from the region. These are the countries that are directly linked to the Pacific Transnational Crime Coordination Center, apart from the donor countries, the funders, Australia and New Zealand, including American Samoa and New Caledonia. There are 13 island countries with 17 TCU centers. The names of the countries are there on the slide. These are centers. These centers are either directly or indirectly linked to the PTCCC. For instance, those in Micronesia are linked to the PTCCC through a sub-regional center. These are the countries that are yet to set up their transnational crime units. As you can see, 8 islands are yet to set up their transnational crime units. And I'm not saying that they are not linked to the PTCCC, given that the commissioners of these different islands are members of the Pacific Islands Chief of Police. They are linked to the PCCC through their own commissioners. And as I have mentioned, some of the countries have their own networks. Those are Australia and New Zealand. Although they are linked to the PTCCC, however, they have their own networks within their country, including American Samoa and, of course, New Caledonia. I'll move on now to the role of the PTCCC. The roles of the PCCC are firstly to manage and coordinate and monitor exchange of transnational crime unit generated intelligence across the Pacific region. This is done through referrals from individual TCUs to the PTCCC. The PTCCC analyze and disseminate to relevant TCUs and law enforcement agencies. For monitoring purpose, once referrals are disseminated, the PTCCC expects feedback in exchange for intelligence. It also manages projects on crime in the Pacific, and that includes human, drug, wildlife, and trafficking, including deportees, illegal fishing, illegal vessels, and yachts entering the region. It also liaises with the Pacific Island Chief of Police, the Oceania Customs Organization, the Pacific Immigration Directors Conference, and the Pacific Island Forum on behalf of all the TCUs. So actually, the PTCCC concept or model is a multi-agency, multi-country approach model. And finally, it provides strategic reporting on a monthly basis to the Board of Management members of the PICP and PIF. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another operational role of the PTCCC. It analyzes referrals from TCUs and identify crime types that needs close monitoring. At this present time, the crimes on the screen are those types that have been identified by the PTCCC as areas of concern, and currently the PTCN and the PTCCC are tasked to monitor and recommend countermeasures, which would be discussed in the next PIF security meeting. This work or this analysis is based on referrals and PTCCC audit for the last 12 months until September this year. The benefit of the PTCCC has enhanced efficiency and effectiveness. Secondly, it has empowered those that are working in it, especially the staff, because of the training that they have. Now the locals within their own transnational crime units are heading the transnational crime in their various countries, rather than people from outside. The free flow of information and intelligence, where feedbacks are received within allocated times. So efficiency and effectiveness has been improved. It has also empowered people in the region, not only as individuals, but as members of organizations in law enforcement. Build closer and stronger relationship. This is a fact because they are working as a region. And it has enhanced cooperation in terms of law enforcement. As I've said, it's a multi-agency, multi-country approach that has enhanced their cooperation. And it supports gender equality. For the PTCCC now, it's headed by a female who is the director of the office. And there are staff working. They are also female. And one issue, it's the benefit, an issue about diversity, the respect for diversity, because those that are seconded to the office of the PTCCC comes from different racial backgrounds and different traditional ethnic background. They are working together in one office. The challenges, yes, there are some strategic and administrative as well as operational challenges. One is the lack of capability. Yes, that is still faced today. Infrastructure developments and intellectual capacity is limited, maybe because of its remoteness. Secondly, we need to link up all the TCUs to a web portal. At the moment, the PTCCC is trying to widen its network. In terms of institutionally, the laws regarding transnational crimes are either not developed or underdeveloped in most of the countries. And effect of this issue, the region, there is more sea than land. So the border is porous. The border is porous. And these are small island states with small economies, very difficult to access. The challenges also are commitment to cooperate is minimal in some cases. because these countries, some of these countries have other priorities like sea level rising, climate change that affects them. And finally, there's inconsistency and lack of commitments to some countries in terms of HR and the training of people to staff the PTCCC. We have learned a lot of lessons, and I think these lessons can be emulated. Inclusiveness through consensus. What we found out that everybody is included in the approach, and that is why it is bearing fruits. The political will from the start, when the leaders say yes, we go along, that's another issue. It's a lesson learned, and I hope all of us can learn from that. Accepting diversity, that's another issue that we have learned. The more people, inclusiveness, the more people are included in a project, in an approach, there are better results. And yes, meaningful partnership, coming together in one cause, rather than disintegrating. So integration, meaningful partnership, and the financial support. This is important. This is pertinent. Without financial support, it will be difficult. And another lesson learned was the multi-dimensional and multi-agency approach. That is why it is bearing fruits. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, not a single country or law enforcement agency can do things alone and in isolation. More can be done when members of different law enforcement agencies work in partnership, breaking their own barriers in terms of cultural, traditional, or personal biases and agendas, and working together for the good of all. The PTCCC model or concept is an illustration of our region can meet new capacity needs in international policing, and is a model that can be adopted for police peacekeeping. It's through collaborative partnership based on effective and sincere intelligence sharing, co-location of identified individuals who coordinate, share, and monitor information intelligence collaboratively that can assist in addressing issues and challenges of security and transnational crime. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. That's the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much. As we have heard earlier in the day, building host police capacity to address sexual violence continues to be a significant area of focus. You have already heard the figures of the implementation of the training curriculum on sexual and gender-based violence, so I skip that part and move directly to Haiti. An innovative Norwegian-funded DPKO project continues to strengthen the specialized sexual and gender-based crime units with the Haitian National Police. By May 2011, the project had generated 33 instructors on the newly developed SGBV training curriculum, as well as 267 special SGBV investigators within the HNP. I'm delighted to have our Norwegian colleagues with us here today to share some of the lessons learned. Special Advisor on Peace and Security, Odd Malmö, and directly from Haiti, Jean Christian Möller. Please, the floor is yours.
Yes, and thank you for this kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, and good friends and colleagues, it's indeed a great honor for me and Jon Christian Möller to talk to such distinguished group of experts, policymakers, and friends of police. So, and I like also to echo the other speakers to thank the German government and also the UN Police Division really bringing forward all these issues for the future policing. It's a challenge to be the last speakers and keep you awake. I'm suffering with you, but we will be brief and we will talk about how Norway has organized this support to MINUSTA in Haiti to meet the enormous need to stop the widespread sexual violence. It can be mentioned as the Norwegian model. I will give some comments on the preparation and the process led to the deployment of the team to MINUSTA. And Jon Christian, he will elaborate the team model and experience after 2 years of work in Haiti. Haiti is far away from Norway, and we did not focus fully on Haiti before after the earthquake in January the 12th, 2010, and one of the deadliest earthquakes of all time, and affected more than 3 million people, 1 million homeless, over 300,000 died, and over 100 of the UN personnel also died during the earthquake, including the SRHG, Anabi, and the acting police commissioner at Haiti. So Norway responded then to the appeals for the humanitarian aids, pledging funds and dispatching rescue and support personnel, and became one of the major donors to the reconstruction of Haiti. A few weeks after the earthquake, widespread violence and rape was reported from Haiti, and the Norwegian government started a process to see how Norwegian police expertise could make a difference in preventing and combating sexual violence in the context of the mandate of MINUSTA. At that time, I was then police advisor at the Permanent Mission of Norway to the United Nations in New York, and I did a fact-finding mission to Haiti and MINUSTA to see how the Norwegian police could fit in the operational concept. And I also did similar discussions also with the police division. It was obvious to me then that the ordinary DPKO model for deployment of personnel will not be sufficient to make a significant change in the work to help the Haitian National Police to deal with the challenges. And from the Norwegian side, we also didn't want to be only a numbers of police officers deployed to Haiti. And then the idea of deploying a team of experts was born. And we continue the discussion on this issue with the police division in New York. And they accepted the idea of deploying a team. They still wanted then to do the interviews of the members of the team to see that they fulfill the requirements. And at the same time, then back home in Oslo, an expert team of 5 police officers was recruited. And this team went through the UN pre-deployment course. They went through special courses on investigation. They went through special courses on cultural understanding and also French language courses. So we prepared this team very well because this was one of the first approaches on a new way of doing policing at operations. So it was very important for us to really deploy the best people we could do. And independent then from what the police was trying to recruit, and all the 5 members of the team had a background from criminal investigation. But independent of what we did at the police side, the Norwegian Foreign Ministry, they decided then to support financially to 2 UN projects on sexual gender-based violence on Haiti. And with discussion then with the police division, it was natural then the expert team was also dealing with these 2 projects. So that fall together, and that has also been the reality on the ground. The Norwegian expert team was deployed to Haiti then in October 2010 and met quickly the reality on the ground. The chief of staff and other leading representatives in MINUSTA was not informed about the Norwegian team, and start treating them as individuals and deploy them to different regions on the island. A hotline call then from the police division and from me as well then solved the misunderstanding, and the team was born then on the ground on Haiti. I can inform you that the Norwegian team had a lot of challenges and when they met the ordinary work in MINUSTA. But I will leave them to Jon Christian to elaborate on the challenges and how they also have succeeded then on the ground. So then I leave to you, Jon Christian, the rest of that, and I will come back in the end of the presentation.
Thank you. As Mr. Malme have spoken about the first history of the Norwegian project, I will talk a bit about what the project are, what the team are, and the difference between the two projects and how I mean that we have succeeded. As today we are a team of 8 UNPOLs. All of us have a background in investigation in serious crimes. We are now 6 Norwegians and 2 Canadians. There's been a lot of talk today about the gender balance, and I think we're about where we should be. We're 40% females. We are a part of the Haitian National Police Development Plan, and to say it very short, we are trying to professionalize the HNP by doing 2 things. And that is strengthen the human capacity by giving them knowledge, skills, and try to change the attitude. The last thing is, of course, the most difficult thing. The second aim is to strengthen the operational capacity with providing office space, building offices for SGBV. It's 2 different projects. The education project is focusing on cultural issues in the Haitian society. It's a 5-day course, so it's limited how much you can do in 5 days, but at least we try to do the basic things. We're also focusing on how to meet the victims, both suspects and the victims. And there's also a part of handling children, sexually abused children. The other project is the office project, establishing offices for victims to meet the police. We're also considering setting up safe shelters in this part. The courses are we are using local capacity as instructors. Very early we realized that to make this a good course, we had to use the local instructors from the Haitian Police Academy to give the course. We as UNPOLs could of course do lessons, but I don't think it would be a very good course with us standing there and speaking with the language assistants. It's much more notoriety if you use the HMP instructors. And we as UNPOLs are focusing on organizing and administration of the courses. We're also giving the same courses in the same classes to the MINUSTA gender focal points, which are placed out in all the regions of Haiti. And this is to give them the same knowledge as the HNP are supposed to have, and also the same standards. The female participation in the courses is about 20%, average 20%, and I think that's quite good because in the HNP it's about 9 to 10%, so we are way above that. And a very important part of the course project is, of course, the evaluation, because there's no reason to give a course that has nothing, that is not valued. So we have done a proper evaluation of the students and also the instructors. It's important for us, for instructors, for our cooperators, and of course for the UN and the donors. It was mentioned that by June this year there was 200 and something students educated, but by October this year there's 528. That's including 30 students who's been trained as trainers in the regions, and they are focusing on being local capacities for the other HMPs in the regions. As you see by the statistics here, I think it's about 95% of the students think it's a good course, making them better or much better or better investigators. So I think that's quite good. The second project is the office capacity. Just to give people education doesn't help much if they don't have the necessary tools to do the job. And of course, an office, a well-equipped office with paper, pens, computers, everything is needed to meet a victim, of course. So this is a very important project that we have a great focus on. The pictures you see is from the opening of an office in the city Onamint in northeast of Haiti, close to the Dominican border. It's actually not an office we built. We found an old office, we renovated it and equipped it. There's also been a lot of publicity and interest in our work. I think we represent a new way of working and thinking in the UN. There's been several presentations for both local Haitian authorities in Haiti and also for international guests. As you see on the picture, there was a presentation this spring for the UN Security Council. For us, doing this project, we think it's an indicator as a kind of success, and it's a lot of interest and a good press. We hope. So far about the projects. I won't go any further into the details. The team model. We wanted to make a difference in the Haiti force in Haiti, and we believe that this way of working actually makes a difference. We have noticed a significant change in the attitude from MINUSTA. As I will come to further in the presentation, there was not very easy way into MINUSTA in the start. Just some few words about these pictures. The office is the new office for the National Coordinator for Gender and Women's Affairs in Haiti. Our goal was to set up the office in 2011. 31st of December, it was opened. So it was right on time. There was a big celebration of this, where you can see the picture in the middle with the First Lady of Haiti, Madame Martelly, represented it. And the national coordinator is seen on the right there, Madame Gauthier. The challenges I mentioned was that I don't think MINUSTA was ready to accept this way of working. It was something totally new. We came into MINUSTA, we didn't get any cars, we didn't have any office, as Mr. Malme noticed. We were deployed to the different regions. They didn't know we were supposed to work as a team. I'll keep asking why you were so special. But after a while, we got our office, we got our cars, and we could start to work. And as a matter of fact, we delivered quite good results after some time. And we noticed that the police commissioner and a lot of other people changed their mind about this kind of working. But it was, and it actually still is, challenges related to the bureaucracy in the MINUSTA. We needed the freedom to be decisive, to make the job done. It was a big challenge that we were very low in the hierarchy. We had a long chain of command, but we had our own budget, and we actually had the opportunity to be decisive when we needed. We think that this way of working with our own budget from our own country has a great advantage in we have our kind of responsibility for managing the money, and we want to give the results based on both the visions of the UN, but also our own country, the donor country. We want to be good representatives for the country, and we want to do a good job. We also used, as I mentioned, a lot of local capacity. We have used a lot of HMP officers to help us during the job, and we think that has been a very big advantage. And the team was put together by persons from the same country. We knew each other before we went out there. We have the similar way of thinking, and we also had a common understanding of how to reach the goals. And I think that's a part of the story why we succeeded. Now, Mr. Malme will come with some recommendations. Thank you.
Yes, and as a conclusion then from this presentation that we have discussed, it is worthwhile to continue with such model as described. We mean that this model can be developed in other areas, not only on sexual gender-based violence, but also in the serious crime area, community policing, border management, and other areas as well. But the team should have a certain size. 5 officers from the beginning from Norway is very vulnerable, 5 officers. We have 2 from Canada now. So we mean that 8 to 10 officers should be the minimum of such model, because there is illness, there is leave, there is rotation and all that. So, and we should also take other nations on board, not only one nation. One nation can start, but we need to take other nations on board. But one nation should have the lead to reach the goals put in the mandate and by the missions. So we have a full accountability to somebody to go forward. And I also said that the team should be organized higher up in the hierarchy, so there is a little bit shorter way to the decision makers, and the gender balances need to be underlined. Here you have the possibility to say to the delivering states, we need 50-50. So we are, based on this experience, Norway is also now starting to set up another new team, a team on serious crime, what we will offer to the United Nations and also be deployed to Haiti. So we are in the process because we are a strong believer on this way of working. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all speakers. It's been a very long day, but very interesting. But I haven't heard any snoring so far, so I guess that is a good sign. I was planned to close because we are running 30 minutes late, and I see that Commissioner Woffy has a question. I wonder, can you save it till tomorrow morning and we start, or?
Anne-Marie, I would be very brief.
Okay.
I have just one simple question and one comment. Je voudrais remercier Mr. Malme de la Norwegian Police Service et Mr. John Christian Moller. I was very impressed by the presentation, the briefing, and I have just one question. Why in Haiti and why not in DRC? Le Congo est connu comme étant la capitale mondiale des violences faites aux femmes. Alors, are you ready to replicate? Would it be possible to replicate the same operation in DRC? You are most welcome. Thank you.
Yes, believe me, I've been trying to get something to Congo, so we will work on that. And now we have a social event, so it's a golden opportunity to try to flirt with member states to see if there are some similar teams that could be deployed. Norway, they have all this oil, so they have a lot of money, so they can probably do more.